Kaleida, thank you so much for joining us today. How's everything going?
Good. Thanks for having me, Chris. It's always time well spent with you.
I appreciate that. So just give us a little bit of background. I'll just kind of cue in a few things here. You're the CEO of Kilo, which is a gym management and CRM software, correct? So SaaS, I think, is the term for it.
Yeah, SaaS. So you can say SaaS, but most people don't know what SaaS means.
I don't.
SaaS is software as a service.
Okay.
But essentially, we offer three products. So we offer gym websites, gym lead machine, and gym management software. And you can kind of go up the tiers as a gym owner. So if you're a brand new gym owner and you don't really know, like, hey, do I need all of these different pieces of software or that kind of thing, or you're just starting out, like, just get a website. Get a high converting website for your gym and we'll start you off there. Once that gym website starts working and you see leads coming in, then of course you're going to want something to manage those leads. And that's where Gym Lead Machine comes in with all of the emails and the text messages and the landing pages and that kind of thing. And then of course you've got your gym management software, because once you sell those leads, you're going to need to do something with them. You need a way to process their payment. You need a way to deliver on your service. And so you've got your gym management softwares by which you can offer your classes and have people sign up for personal training or that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So real quick, let's talk about that. So I think that's really interesting. Most people, it based on your priority list, put the cart before the horse, so to speak. I think their first thing is software. Their next thing is the equipment, and then it's a website down the line that looks really good, right? What is your reasoning behind website first? For obviously, I understand the need for leads at this point, but for someone new or maybe looking to open a gym or any business for that matter, what is the importance behind that?
I mean, it's really hard to prioritize those things, right? So like, you can't just have a website because you still need a way for you to process payments on the back end, right? But if you are just starting out and you're maybe starting out of your garage, just like I did, where I could just collect cash payments, the best thing for me to do was to have a website so that people could find me and that I had a good online presence. And the importance of looking good on the internet is more important today than it ever has been. And so I think for gym owners or business owners, like anywhere, how do most people find you? Well, they'll Google you. And after they find you on Google Business Profile, they're probably going to go to your website. And so if your website is slow, if it looks bad, if it's not irrelevant to your target audience, you're going to lose that customer pretty quick, or that potential customer pretty quick.
That makes total sense. So yeah, that's a great point that I think a lot of people kind of ignore. I don't want to say ignore, because obviously things have evolved quickly in the last few years in terms of attention being so important, right? Man, I mean, even for our business that's been around for so long, another business opens and it's like immediately your SEO drops because algorithms seem to like the new thing better than the old thing. So you constantly have to be updating and refreshing everything you're doing. Is that kind of in line with that?
Yeah, kind of. Like, there's a lot of things that happen, and I honestly don't know. Like, I'm not an expert in this. I hire experts and I have them do the things. But there is a lot of things that happen when a new business comes on like into your realm. Like, yeah, they'll have fresh new content. Google will be indexing it and all that good stuff. So that's why it's more important than ever to continually be putting out something. And I know it's overwhelming and I know that it's a lot of work, but for you to have fresh, unique content on your website is amazing for Google, and it's amazing for people to constantly be able to find you and just, stay relevant.
That makes sense. So with that, we always talk about the fundamental pillar of everything is your health and wellness. You're in the health and wellness space. But with everything you're doing, I know you manage a lot of employees. You've got a really quickly growing company. It was in the 5,000, Inc. 5,000 list, correct? For
Twice, yeah.
Twice, okay. So that's a lot to be managing as the CEO, on top of having a fiance, wanting to travel. I know you were in Europe recently. How do you find time for your fitness and your health? Like, not even just physical, but mental health as well. I mean, that's a lot of strain to be just shouldering all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of parts to it. Scheduling is a big part of it. So, just like probably you tell your clients all the time, like, hey, if you're struggling to get into the gym, just schedule it, right? So, schedule in those blocks during the day that you know that you need to take care of yourself. Um, Getting a dog actually helped with this a little bit because it forces me to take breaks often from my work. So I have to go outside because he is a very needy, tiny dog. So he has to go outside. I make sure that, like I take my vitamins every day and that kind of thing. But having a rigid work schedule has really helped. And I have to be okay with the fact that the business may not grow as quickly as I want it to because I have to look after myself. And so it's a constant struggle because, when I was single, I would work from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. and I might get a workout in there at, 6 or something like that. And it would just be like a day full of stuff. And yeah, I'd get a lot done, but did I feel great about it? Did I get to a point where I just kind of wasn't excited about the work anymore? So now when I am sort of forced to take time away, I'm more excited to come back. Which is funny, you mentioned I went to Europe recently, which I did. And it's the second time in my life that I've taken a 2-week holiday.
Wow, okay.
Which for Americans, I know is like, that's insane to take a 2-week holiday. Canadians, it's also insane. So I've never done it before. But yeah, this is my second time. We did it last year as well. And it felt great. Like the first week, I was like, this is amazing. This is like, I can't wait to do this again. I got to day 10 and I was like, I'm good. I want to go home. I want to get back to work. And that's the feeling I want, right? I want to feel like, all right, I'm recharged. I got a bunch of new ideas while I was away that I kind of wrote down and squirreled away in the back of my head. And now I can go home and be excited to do them.
I think that's a really cool point, and you're absolutely right. I think my parents took us on 2-week vacations growing up, and people thought we were crazy, right?
Yeah.
And they pulled us out of school for both of them too.
So
it's like I learned so much about the value of non-populated tourism spots, right? Being in Hawaii in October and May when no one's there other than the kids from school, which it was cool. But as a 10-year-old, it sucked waiting for anyone your own age to get out of school to go do anything. So, But at the same time, it's like, we tried. My wife and I have tried that a couple times where we've taken a little bit longer vacations, and you definitely get to that itchy point where you're like, okay, can I get on my computer today? Like, do we have anything going on? I kind of want to like do something other than sit on a beach or like.
And it's not because you're addicted to work. It's like you've had that time away,
right?
And you're saying your body or your brain or whatever is saying like, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Battery's full.
Yeah,
it's overflowing. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that's really important for people to realize is even someone like yourself that's in those fast growing lists and is doing all these things and is so accomplished, and even you're still finding time to take real time off. Right. I think for a lot of people, that first 7 days is like, okay, I'm getting into a groove of this whole vacation thing. Another 3 or 4 days, and you're like, okay, now I'm actually fully satisfied.
Yeah. And I know it's super common in Canada anyways for people to go to Mexico for 5 days or 6 days or something like that during the winter, which I think is great. And like, I'm not hating on that or anything. They often go to a resort, but they go to a resort and they drink their faces off for 7 days. Like, we barely drank on our trip to Europe, which is insane because like it's, wine is cheap and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we come back, we feel good other than like the massive amount of croissants that I ate. Like I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
So
your body's actually able to recover.
Yeah.
Right? You're able to get real sleep. It's so different when you're not clouded the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also very lucky. Like my fiance he's got a normal job with like a normal company with normal working hours. And he's very adamant on the fact that like, hey, when I'm off work, like at 5 o'clock, like I want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And I've never had that before. I grew up on a farm and I dated farmers, and that was like, I could just work all the time because they were also working. And so when he has like a regular job and does regular person things, like, it's really refreshing. I'm like, oh, is today a holiday, a federal holiday? All right, we're taking that time off. We're taking the day off. That's cool. So that's also been like a huge step in the right direction for me to take some real time off as well.
And for anybody listening that has a normal job, we're not bagging it.
No.
It's just, as a business owner, we just forget days. I can count at least a handful of times this school year where I got up and my son was still there at like 8:30 and I left my office and I'm like, what are you still doing here? I have a day off. Huh? Like, I have no idea. It's Monday. Like, you don't even think about this stuff. So for us, putting boundaries up is kind of what this is about. Is, as a business owner, boundaries are super important. And even as an employee, if you have a hard-riding boss, being able to put up respectful boundaries is still incredibly important, because if you don't, it gets really easy for that boss to just ask everything of you. You kind of go back to what is it, Office Space, or the movie, and you got the Lumbergs. I'm going to need you to come in on the weekend, and if you don't establish that boundary, like, it just becomes an expectation. And when you're your own boss, you're the worst boss, right? Like, you're just like, hey, you did it last week and you're going to do it this week and you do it next weekend, right?
Yeah.
And yes, you want to work hard and you want to get that leg up and you want to work when other people aren't. For me, Friday afternoons, to me, if you're working from Friday at 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock as a business owner, you're probably getting way ahead of most small business owners. So I think there's ways to do it without sacrificing that balance of quality time with the people that love you and would like to see you outside of a FaceTime or a Zoom or behind a computer screen.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because as business owners, if you're a good boss, you will tell your staff, like, take the time off. Don't work past 5, especially we're 100% remote. And so I will say, like, if it's a holiday where you live, you take the day off. If you've had a couple of like really hard days, we call them duvet days, and I think they're super cute. Like, take a mental health day, right? Take a day to go be in the sun. A lot of our staff are Canadian, so they don't see the sun for like 9 months of the year. So during the summer, I tell them, like, kick off at 3 o'clock on Friday. It's fine. We don't work in healthcare. No one will die. Like, it will be okay. Yeah. But then when you're talking to yourself, it's a completely different story.
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. How dare you put it at 3? Yeah. But so you have to find that balance, give yourself some grace, be okay that, the work will wait. It will still be there on Monday.
And that's something I talk about all the time, is like, when you left your corporate job, just generality, when you left your corporate job to start a gym or start your own business, you left because you probably had a terrible boss. And you wanted to be in control. The problem is you just inherited an even worse boss.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, you can't grovel to yourself or have these respectful conversations. It's generally negative. It's generally very aggressive.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to look in the mirror and go, you're being an asshole to yourself. Like, you need to relax.
Yeah.
And we don't have that outside perspective. My wife's the same way. She owns her own business. So sometimes we have to check each other and go, hey, we're kind of, too much.
Yeah.
Right? Like, your son mentioned to me yesterday, he's tired of not seeing you, or he misses you. Like, pull it back.
Yeah.
Respectfully, pull it back.
Respectfully.
But, like, because it can get really disrespectful fast, because we're stressed and things are going on.
And it's so important in our heads, right? Yep. And when, I'm sure, like, your wife will look at your business and be like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But, like, it's huge in your brain, right? And
yeah.
Same thing with my fiance. Like, I'll have this problem that I think is huge, and he's like, this is not a big deal. Like, just like do this, and this. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense.
Perspective is so massive. Like, if you don't have someone to talk to, please find someone. Like, friend, family member, neighbor, like someone that is just going to give you, I don't want to say unsolicited advice, but at least honest advice.
I mean, just somebody to, like, vent to, and them to, like, ask questions.
Right.
Sometimes you'll figure out the solution to the problem yourself too, right?
Yeah, sometimes just talking it out, you'll come up with answers you didn't even realize existed. So the farm, tell me about that. This really intrigues me. So, you're a hardworking CEO of a tech company. Farm just, like, doesn't fit whatsoever. So please explain how you went from growing up on a farm, harvest, and dating farm boys to running a successful, rapidly growing tech company where everyone works from home?
Yeah, well, let me give you the Coles Notes version, or I will try. Anyways, grew up on a farm, quite a successful farm. My dad was very innovative and did a lot of different things, but had a pretty successful seed company, and so I was right there next to him doing a lot of stuff. My brother runs it now, also very successful in what he does. I went to university, got to the city a little bit. Didn't really like the city, or thought I didn't really like the city. Spoiler, I was in the wrong city. And took environmental management, and so I know a lot about dirt, funny enough.
Okay.
Dirt and rocks. So yeah, I ended up getting a job that was in the farming or in the agriculture industry, which was helping farmers with their soil health and growing better crops. And sometimes it was organic, sometimes it wasn't, but just in general trying to make the world a little bit of a better place for the environment. Turns out that job was actually more trying to be the best. It was more of a sales job than it was anything. And who doesn't want a pretty little redhead driving in their driveway? Whether they're going to buy from her or not is a totally different thing, right? So I found it was very competitive. It was very cutthroat. My sales were shit not because I wasn't very good at my job. That was part of it, though. I really wasn't very good at it. But the competition was so heavy. So the area that I lived in it is an area where there's a lot of agriculture, and then there's a lot of people that service agriculture. So we all pretty much sold the same products. We just had to be the cheapest person, or I don't know, do the best backflips or whatever it might be. And I just didn't like it. I wasn't respected in the field. And it really wasn't fun. I was in tears a lot. And I knew I really liked fitness, and I loved CrossFit. And my dad died when I was 23, and so I found CrossFit through that sort of healing process. And I was like, I can help people with this. And so I started a CrossFit gym in my garage. Actually, I just started training people out of my garage, and I did that. I had morning classes. I went and did this very physical, intense job, and then did classes in the evening in my garage. And I did that for a year. Looking back, I'm how did I ever do that? But I did it. And that was in a town of less than 3,000 people. Wow. And I had enough money, I had gotten enough cash flow to do the next thing. And that was buy a building and start a gym. And so I quit my job and I started a gym that was a CrossFit gym where you need a certain capacity, a certain number of people to fill the space in a town of less than 3,000 people. Somehow it worked. And I ran that gym for 5 years. It still exists. The general manager bought it from me. So I had a pretty successful exit on that. And then during that same time, I met my two partners, John and Mateo, and we had started working on some projects together. One of them being what is now known as Kilo, was formerly known as Gym Lead Machine. And just kind of all continued from there. And so now we have a team of, like you said, 50 people all over the world. And it seems to be going okay. We're at over 1,000 clients today, and we started at 0 in 2019. And
I see why you're on the list. That's incredible. 1,000, wow, that's average 250 new clients a year. For anyone that owns a business, if you're, whether you're a gym owner or not, unless you're a traditional gym with a big name like Planet Fitness, the idea of getting 250 new clients in a year in any scope is insane. So that's a real big number. So that's massive respect. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different avenues, but in that first year, I think it was over 700 clients in the first year. So yeah, you're very fast in that first year. COVID hit, people needed an online presence. That was our specialty. So we kind of
Right place, right time.
Yeah, right place, right time.
Let's talk about that though. You could be in business 30 years and have all the infrastructure in the world. Taking on 700 clients in a year is a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? I mean, what did you have just the right team in place? Was it, I mean, I have to assume the first year is probably pretty small.
Very small. We have more people at the Two Brain Summit this year than we had on the team in 2019.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So we have more staff here today than we had when we started the company and got those 700 clients. It's insane, right? But kind of tying back to what we said earlier, my health was not great when we grew that quickly. My life was not great when we grew that quickly. We're also in lockdown, and I was single at the time, and so I did nothing but, lock myself in a condo and build this company with 5 of our staff people. But it forced us to get systems in place really quickly. It forced us to simplify the product down to only what was necessary. And it forced us to get really good at delivery. And so while it was a really tough time and my health was not good, and we were all very, very stressed, we all were working 14-hour days, we knew that was not going to last forever, and so that's what got us through that. But it was amazing for the product, because
right.
The product was we were forced to make it super simple and super fast. And I think that sometimes, even when I talk to gym owners, we often will overcomplicate things, and we want to add so many bells and whistles and so much fun stuff. They're not bad
right.
things that we want to add, but they're just not necessary in order to get the product at the door. So I think once you find something that works and is efficient and simple and beautiful, deliver on that. And then you can add some fun stuff later if you think it's going to add value. But get that core thing really good.
So I love that idea, and I would love to just kind of keep building on that, simplicity, something we all take for granted. When you're a business owner, you approach it as bells and whistles have to happen because that's going to be my separator.
Yeah.
But when you're a customer, simplicity is your best friend. I find I buy from places that make things simple 9 out of 10 times versus they have the most accessories, right? Or they have the flashiest website, or they have, I think simplicity is so important. When you guys were breaking that down, how did you granulate it so much to the simplicity? Because I know as a GLM client back in 2021, I think, it was really simple. And it was really straightforward, and you almost felt like, man, is this going to be enough? Because
mm-hmm.
It was just so siloed to exactly what you need and not a lot of fluff. How did you guys granulate down while all this is going on?
We had no choice. We were forced to. We were okay, we can't deliver these 18 other pages on the website that we want to. We can only deliver 5.
Right.
Because our original plan when we launched the company was to sell 1 website a week all year, right? And it was okay, so we'll hit our goal of 300 and some clients by the end of the year. Or sorry, I guess it's 50 some clients.
52s, yeah.
Yeah, by the end of the year, if we deliver 1 website a week and we build it really well, and instead we ended up with 350 some clients because we ended up selling 5 websites a day. We actually had to shut down the buy button. We didn't even have sales consultations. We refused, and some people were mad about this. I was I have no time.
Yeah.
I cannot meet with you. I don't have a sales team, so you either buy or you don't buy. And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Right? Because there's to kind of go back to your question about you like really simple things. There are 2 kinds of customers. And I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine who lives in Paris, and we had beers together a couple of weeks ago. And he's you've got the booking.com people, and you've got the Airbnb people. And booking.com is insanity. You go onto booking.com and it's messy. It's hard to find things. If you find something once, you can't find it again. Like, it's just like crazy. And then you've got Airbnb. It's like pretty. You can like save things better. It's like a little bit easier to book. It's simple, right? And I was like, that's a great comparison. Like, there will be people who are price shopping, who will want all the bells and whistles, who are like, they don't care if the website's messy. They will do the research. They will, like, you've got those people, and maybe they are your customer, or maybe they're not, like, but you have to understand which of those customers that you want to market to. And so, yeah, we didn't have a sales consultations, and people were pissed about it, and that's okay because we didn't have time. But yeah, we would open the buy button. As soon as we got 5, we'd shut it down. And we actually didn't sell on Fridays either. We only sold 4 days a week because we were like, we can't.
You got to have a day to
Yeah.
get caught up on all that paperwork and admin and everything else. I can only imagine.
To build these websites.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That makes so much sense because I am an Airbnb guy. Like, I'm an Airbnb and VRBO guy. Like, I'm just very simple. Make it simple. Make it easy for me. I don't want to have to think about it.
Yeah, you're not necessarily looking for the cheapest price. Like, you might price shop a little bit.
Right.
But you're not the booking.com person that's going to be like, what's the cheapest one in the best location?
Yeah.
You're like, my fiance is that person. I am not. We plan a trip. I pick out the restaurants. He picks out the hotels. Like, that's how we operate, because I can't stand being on booking.com.
No, I can't stand it. I stay away from Priceline. I stay away from all of them. I go, I know what I want. I know where the area I'm looking for, and I know how many bedrooms I want, and I don't care if it's a little bit more, but if it's the right location and it's, just keep it simple. Yeah. And I love that. I love that you could do that. And I think that's a great point, that I'm definitely attracted to, if it's a difference between 5 clicks and 3 clicks, I'm probably going with the websites at 3 clicks.
Yep.
I probably subconsciously don't even realize I'm doing it for that reason.
Yeah.
But they could be that simple for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, audit your website. If it's got more than 3 clicks, you aren't getting me as a customer. And I'm a great customer. So tell me more about that background. You had a successful gym. You had a successful exit, which, whether people want to hear this or not, the truth is that is not the norm.
Correct.
It's getting better now. But for a long time, that was not the norm. When you did it, it definitely wasn't the norm.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about how that worked. Regardless of industry, creating a business that you can exit from should always be the goal, even if you plan on keeping it forever. You don't know if your kids want to, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a big mistake I see. I see more and more is in this generation. Parents, probably grandparents now, have had a business for 30, 40 years. They're exiting, not by their own will, and the kids go, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And the business has not been prepared for any type of exit, so now it's kind of just stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
For anyone, regardless of their situation, what are some things you would recommend to create a proper exit, especially specifically given who we're here with this weekend?
Yeah, so one of my favorite books is Built to Sell. And I will tell everybody this, like, built to sell. Like, it's such an easy read, and it will tell you the exact steps to build a sellable business, whether you want to sell it or not. And I know like sometimes we get a little bit of hate for this. Like people who are like building businesses to sell. The point isn't necessarily to sell it. The point is to like have a business that works for you, that also like will give you the freedom to do the things that you want and give you some time off, right? Because if you build a business that is built to sell, that means that you have the systems in place, it means that you have the staff in place, it means that like the business can essentially operate without you, so you could take a vacation. And like I think that's one of the most important things to do. And honestly, like sometimes it's just as simple as like writing down the processes and giving them to like and delegating well, right? And that's simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it's a huge component in building a business. Otherwise, you just like build yourself a job.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. Like if that's what you want, that's who you want to be, that's like all good. You don't want to pass on the business. You have no interest in selling it. You have no interest in bringing on staff. You don't like to take vacations. Like, that's fine. But for the people who thought that they were gonna like start a gym or a flower shop or whatever, and it would just be like, look, I just get to be around flowers all day, or I can work out all day. It's like, it's a pretty rude awakening when you figure out that you can't, and that you have to like have more staff in order to make more money, or you have to like have better systems in place in order to sell more clients. Like, those are the things you need to do in order to build an asset that is truly an asset.
I agree. I think just having that option, right? Because you have no idea what's going to happen in a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Where you want to be, what you want to do, where life's going to take you. If you have a brick and mortar business, you can't pick it up and take it with you. So having that ability to liquidate at any moment if life changes, if your dreams or aspirations change, just having that ability to make a quick decision. And by quick, I don't mean like I wake up in the morning and I've got it up for sale by the evening. This isn't real estate. I'm talking like, all right, I've got a plan. In the next year, I'm going to kind of check those last few boxes and get this thing to market. It's nice to have that in your back pocket.
Yeah, and it's like it took me years to do that, right? But I think it was like by year 3, the business was like pretty much like, I still did some of the marketing and that kind of things, but it was like pretty much self-sufficient. And then I took a month-long trip to Portugal and was like, call me if you need me. Met with my general manager like maybe once a week or something like that, and it was all good. And that was like, I know it was my sign, right? It's like, I know it's good. Like, I know they can do the thing and I still get paid, and it's good. So yeah.
Sounds all too familiar to the life I'm going to live this month going to Portugal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me. You hit it on the head for me. I want to respect your time, but I feel like we're going to definitely need to do a second interview just to talk about scaling and, preparing businesses for sale. I think there's a lot more to that. And I personally feel like we could go forever on this whole thing.
I mean, I love talking about systems. I love built to sell, eMyth, all that good stuff. So I'm game anytime.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming in. Do you have anything you want to leave everybody with? Quote, a thought, just something that they can chew on?
For some reason, this quote popped into my head, and I've literally never said it in my life. But it's like, you and I, we love simple things, right? We like simple websites. We like, things that are simplicity. And I think, again, I've never said this in my life. Coco Chanel always said, before you leave the house, if you've put on your outfit, like, take one piece off. So take an accessory off, don't take your shoes off, but like, take something. If you've done too much, like, just take one piece off. And I think that can apply to a lot of things in your life, and especially business. Like, if you're building something, if you're building a program, you're building like a offering or something in marketing, like, take something away. Like, it doesn't need to be super fancy, like the best ad ever. It just needs to like speak to your target market, and that's it. Like, and have a buy button. But like, it just needs to like say the thing. It doesn't need to be super fancy. So I don't know.
Awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that. Thank you again for coming in. Really appreciate your time.